Traditionally, you play with feather shuttlecocks, but these are goose feathers, and as you can see, it's quite a difficult manufacturing process. These are all individual feathers. They're all assembled by hand. There's very little machinery, so they're expensive, and there's quite a few problems with them. The only alternative is a nylon shuttlecock, which is a one-piece. So in terms of construction, there's a massive difference between the two, and they perform very differently. And for decades, people have said, why can't we have a synthetic shuttlecock that plays more like a feather shuttlecock? And you would think, it would be relatively simple, but it's not. Bird 2 is patented and granted in the UK, also China and India, but that's taken some time. It always takes many years to get through. The design is just this two-piece design, and the patent says we have a lower section and a flight section, and they're joined in the middle, roughly in the middle, and that's all the patent says. So it's a very simple patent and easy to protect. We are targeting specifically clubs, which quite often bounce between using feathers and plastic. So they are used to both, and they want to have something in between. They don't want the expensive feathers because they are very expensive to use. They're not expensive to buy individually. Bird 2 will be much the same as a good quality feather, but you will be using one Bird 2 for 5 to 10 feathers. The market is surprisingly large in that badminton is not a very high profile sport, so you don't see it on television too much. And also, people don't spend an awful lot on gear. It's often played in church halls, sports facilities and things. But the one thing they do is buy an awful lot of shuttlecocks. And it's a very simple business as well. Whereas in tennis, people tend to go off to a shop normally and buy their own balls, and then even though they have expensive rackets, they quite often use those balls until they're bare, threadbare. In badminton, you go and play at a club, and you pay £1.50, £2, whatever, an evening generally, or you may have a subscription. And there's a shuttle monitor who buys the shuttles. So it's very simple in that there is a single source who's buying them by the gross. We're buying boxes of shuttlecocks. So we don't have to go out and entice individuals to buy shuttlecocks, and we don't have to get retailers with their high markups to buy from us. You have distributors who shift large numbers of shuttlecocks, and they go largely these days to internet retailers who shift large numbers of shuttlecocks to relatively few people. It's a very simple business. We've raised from our present investors just over £60,000. We want to raise in total about 180,000. That gets us to the point where we can get an automatic assembly machine and make a really good margin on manufacturing and selling the product. We can work with far less money because we've got some fairly simple assembly equipment at the moment, and we can make money using that. But we need to spend a reasonable amount, which is 125,000, to get some good assembly equipment, which is semi-automatic. Spend another 50,000, 55, 60,000, we can get fully automated plant where we just feed in mouldings one end and shuttlecocks come out the other end. So that's what we're aiming for with this round of funding. Their overheads are low. Our overheads will be low because we're not in the first instance developing a big manufacturing plant. We'll still be using the contractors we've used already, and the cost of setting up distribution isn't there, it's already in place. So to start with, that's why we're going for a relatively small amount of money here, really. I think most people looking at what we're trying to grow the business into would assume we need a lot more money. We don't. We're making batches of 10,000 at the moment, and we expect to be making batches of 100,000 fairly quickly, and millions per quarter before too long. I mean, people like Dunlop Stasinger, they don't manufacture anymore. They have people who manufacture for them, but that company makes about 5 million per annum, and they're Me Too, and they also have to undercut Yonex. Yonex is the market leader, so they're making 5 million Me Too, fairly ordinary standard products. We're coming in with a completely new design, which looks different, and people acknowledge very quickly is different.